Stephen, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me.
Good afternoon, Danica. Nice to see you.
Firstly, this is certainly a really good sign. Can you take us through the SNAP poll itself? How many business owners were surveyed?
So last Thursday night, we invited the New South Wales Treasurer, Dominic Perrottet, to join in what's known as a tele town hall. So this is where we contact all of our members across the state and ask them if they'd like to participate in a phone hookup with the Treasurer, and they get a chance to ask the Treasurer questions that are worrying them about the crisis or about the government's stimulus packages. And we actually had 3,000 business people from across New South Wales live on the phone talking to the Treasurer and listening to the Treasurer. And we did a SNAP poll during that tele town hall, and we simply asked people, do you think your business is going to survive through the crisis? And we gave them three choices. Yes, we'll survive. No, we won't, or we're not sure at the moment. And as you just said, good news was 3/4 of the people who did the poll said we're going to survive. Only about 6% were certain that they wouldn't come out of this with a going concern business, and about 20% were sort of unsure where they stood at the moment. So even those numbers are pretty positive.
Absolutely. 72% of respondents said that, yes, they will be able to survive this crisis. Where do you think that this optimism has come from, particularly given the last month or so has just been so difficult for businesses?
Well, you remember when we first went into this in the middle of March, the conversations that were being had at the time by the Prime Minister, by the Premier in New South Wales, by the Chief Medical Officer. Everybody was really preparing for a 6-month lockdown, and there was even discussion that it could be longer than 6 months. And so there was a lot of fear and a lot of concern that 6 months is a very, very long time, particularly for those businesses that were completely closed or those who were, 75, 80% down on revenue. And so I think two things happened. One, many businesses, because they're operated by entrepreneurs, actually sort of figured out other ways of being able to provide services, or they pivoted to a different, service or product. And so that was one way that they were coping with it. But more recently, of course, because of the fantastic behaviour of the Australian people, where we've been able to see the curve completely flatten, also the opportunity that the COVID Safe app presents, if we can get enough Australians to download that app, and then, of course, the huge ramp up in testing. All of those things are now suggesting that we may well be able to, as the Prime Minister said, get an early mark in terms of where we might otherwise be. And so for business people, that's a cause to be optimistic. That's a cause to really start thinking about how might they be able to open their businesses or ramp up their businesses, even in an environment where they're probably still going to be required to implement fairly stringent social distancing rules.
Absolutely. It's certainly given hope to many people. We know a number of businesses and retail as well are likely to reopen as school does go back in New South Wales in about a week or so time. Stephen, what do you think will now be the biggest challenge for business as life very slowly goes back to normal in the coming months?
I think the real issue is we need to make sure that when the government and the police and everybody else issue changes to the rules, that we're crystal clear on our communication, so that we don't have business people or customers or even parents taking their kids to school or visitors to nursing homes. We need to be crystal clear about what the rules are at any given point in time, because when you watch television, you hear about relaxed restrictions in the Northern Territory, where they're almost completely back to normal by the looks. Then you see Western Australia, who have a different set of rules. You're allowed to go camping in Western Australia. You're allowed to use your boat in Queensland. We've got to be really careful that we make it crystal clear from time to time what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, because otherwise we'll have a level of confusion, and business people are trying really hard to comply, to make sure their customers and their staff comply with the rules. But we've got to just be careful if the rules change all the time. We need to be crystal clear what they are from time to time and how they're going to work, so that people don't inadvertently kind of cross the line without really meaning to.
You mentioned the tracing app, the COVID Safe app. There's been more than 3 million downloads so far. From a business perspective, will that aid in the reopening of a number of businesses?
Well, I think on that last coverage that you just had there, I think we've hit 4 million, which is really encouraging. I'd like to see maybe another 4 or 5 million on top of that. We've started a social media campaign, as have all of the other chambers of commerce and other industry groups around the country. We're really pushing hard for, first of all, the 2 million business owners and their families to download the app, and then to encourage people who've got staff to download the app and use it as well, because if we can get sufficient numbers of Australians downloading the app and using the app, then business can get back to normal sooner, the jobs can come back sooner, the wages can come back sooner, and that's got to be in everybody's interest, that we get back to that level of economic activity as quick as we can, because nobody likes seeing those lineups at Centrelink. Business people hate not running their business and looking after their customers and paying their staff. So let's everybody get in there and download this app. If it's a shortcut to getting the economy going again, then let's do it.